Just a quick word to say the Scotland Rugby podcast is now available every Tuesday. Join me, Andy Burke and Tom English for everything you need to know about the world of Scottish rugby. Just head to BBC Sounds and subscribe to the Scotland Rugby podcast.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland on Monday, the 21st of August 2023. I'm Liam McLeod. Remember to subscribe at BBC Sounds. We're with you in some shape or form every single day, including match days, where the podcast will be focused on the post-game reaction from clubs and pundits alike on Sports Sound. And there was plenty for them to go over on Sunday as the back-to-back holders Celtic were eliminated from the League Cup. An unusually timid display at Rugby Park from last season's treble winners saw the 2012 winners Kilmarnock march on thanks to Marley Watkins' goal. Revenge as well for last season's semi-final defeat, and it sets up a quarter-final clash with Hearts. Back in Ayrshire, who eased past Partick Thistle while Hibs beat Raith Rovers, they now take on St Mirren at home in a rematch of the opening weekend of the Premiership when Saints won that 5-goal thriller late on. Full details of the draw, including the sides that got through on Saturday, and it was Aberdeen on Friday evening at Forth Bank. bbc.co.uk/Sports Scotland is what you need for that. I'll be joined a little later on the podcast by the former Rangers striker Kenny Miller to look ahead to Tuesday's Champions League qualifier at Ibrox as they welcome PSV Eindhoven in the playoffs. Firstly, we'll have a chat though with the Kilmarnock legend and Kenny's old Scotland colleague, Gary Holt, who joins us now. Gary, how are you after all that at Rugby Park on Sunday?
Nursing a wee bit of a sore head. Went out to have a wee few sherbets after the game, as you do, and thoroughly deserved with the team, to be honest.
I mean, it was a fabulous victory for them. I know there's a lot of headlines today about Celtic's treble hopes being extinguished in the opening month of the season, about how poor they were, but Kilmarnock were fabulous again, and what an incredible start to the season, beating Rangers on the opening day, knocking Celtic out of the League Cup, and in between all that, a clean sheet and a point at Tynecastle as well. It's just been the dream start for Derry McInnes, hasn't it?
They've been excellent in the 3 games. The league games, 2 league games, and then the cup game yesterday. They've been at it. They've stuck to their task. They all know their jobs and their roles and responsibilities, and they were up for it yesterday. And whether Celtic were or not, I don't know. You need to ask Brendan and Celtic players. But make no bones, they should have known come to Rugby Park on our infamous pitch, as they call it, and everybody likes to moan about it. But you've got to turn up and perform, and Kilmarnock players turned up and performed a good honest shift, as I call it. And when you've got 11 players plus your bench who are going to work hard, you can achieve great things. And yesterday was proof to that, because I don't think Celtic, for some of their play within the game, I don't think the Killie goalie had too much to do with the game. I don't think the back line had too much to do. And that's testament to what Derek and the staff have been doing. What's
been really impressive just now is the fact that they're keeping the ball out of the net. I mean, that's 3 incredible clean sheets they've managed. There wouldn't have been many people, Gary, perhaps even you as an optimistic Kilmarnock supporter, that would have looked at those 3 matches and thought, you're going to knock the treble winners out of the League Cup and you're going to start with a home victory over Rangers. You're going to go to Tynecastle without conceding a goal.
No, I'm not going to sit here and say, that's what we all thought and hoped. But
given the problems they had last season in that regard.
Yeah, but I think there's a solidity about them at the minute. I think there's just a sound structure within the club, to be honest, within the playing staff. They're solid citizens, Liam, and I think I touched on it with you off air. They're boys that know their jobs. It's a wee bit harks back to Steve Clark kind of team and era of, they know their jobs, they know their roles and responsibilities. They're not going to overcomplicate it. They're not going to go gung-ho and leave themselves exposed. And at the end of the day, if you're not conceding goals, you've got a good chance of winning it. It only takes 1 goal. And that seems to be a wee bit of the foundation that Derek's instilled at the minute. Let's not concede and then see what, if we're top end of the players can get as goals. And with Armstrong and Kennedy in the wings, they've got pace, they've got ball carriers. Marley Watkins is an honest runner and a good foil. And Vassell, when he comes on, and if he can get fit to start games, can ruffle feathers. So there's energy there. Will we go and score lots of goals in a game? No, I don't think so. But as long as you're not conceding lots of goals at the other end, you've got that chance and you've got that threat within your team that they can produce, and that showed yesterday.
A great backline, Mayo, Dees and Finlay. I mean, you know what you're getting from Lewis Mayo. He was there last season. You obviously know what you're getting from Stuart Findlay. This is his fourth spell at the club. A no-brainer signing as far as I'm concerned. And you've got Lyons, Watson and McGuinness in the middle. Again, I mean, it's a fabulous spine of the team that he's assembled there. And he's been able to put his own stamp on it, because I think he was a little bit frustrated, Derek McInnes, when he first came in, and that he was limited in what he could do in the transfer market because of the players who were there on contracts. But once they elapsed and he was able to bring his own men in, it's a team with a real identity. And when you consider where Kilmarnock were starting that championship season, having been so used to top flight football for almost 3 decades, 2 years ago, to go from there to where they are right now is testament to the whole club, but to what Derek McInnes is doing there.
Yeah, 100%. And I touched on it last year with a couple of my friends. I don't care how bad the football is. I don't care how much of a struggle. Staying in the league is the most important thing that year. Because as you touched on, Liam, there was players under contract. There was not so much movement for Derek to go and put a stamp on. And clubs are like that. You don't get promoted and then be able to have a clean sweep and start again with a fresh bit of paper. So you have to beg, borrow and steal to manufacture results. And Derek probably, and I think he's admitted it and spoke to a few people, that he didn't enjoy it last year. It wasn't his fun, which it isn't going to be, but he's now had a close season to change that around. Players have left, a lot of players have left, a lot of players have come in. But like you said, the back three, the midfield three, they're honest pros who know their job, they know the shift they have to put in. And if they don't put that shift in, Kilmarnock won't win games. They won't win games. If we turn up thinking we're good players and we can play, win games. If they turn up with the attitude that they've shown the 3 games, where roll the sleeves up, get stuck in, win the battles, win the 1-to-1 battles, win the team battles, we've got talent within the team to win it. And I think that's what Derek's instilled, is that work ethic into the group, into the team with the signings he's made. The
size of Kilmarnock FC, the history of Kilmarnock FC, the potential of Kilmarnock FC, it's all there. If you can get it right, McInnes is getting it right, it would seem, as Stevie Clark did, as Bobby Williamson did, as Tommy Burns did, then you've got a right good thing in your hands there, don't you?
Yeah, it's there. There's history behind it, but you sit in a lot of clubs will probably say the same. There's history at all clubs, but there's been success built on success throughout the years. The year going down at the Championship was a blip, but sometimes it's not always a bad thing if you can bounce back, and we're fortunate enough to do that. It gives you a chance to reassess club values from top to bottom. And I think the ownership of the club and what they've done, and I think it was probably a big statement last year, given Derek, when everybody else was losing their managers, they stuck by him.
Give him a new deal, didn't they?
That shows you the alignment within the club, what they want to do, what they want to achieve, and hopefully the fans will back it. And if they've seen results, they'll come to the games. The success breeds success. So that they're getting good season ticket sales for this year again. There is fans turning up to games. There's a buzz about the town, but it's early doors. It's 2 league games and a cup, next round of the cup. So you ride that crest of a wave, and you hopefully carry on to the next couple of games.
The bottom line is, Gary, if you beat Celtic in a cup competition, you've got to be looking at winning it, don't you?
100%, but it's something I spoke about to my friend yesterday. A home draw is massive for us.
Yeah, Hearts next at Rugby Park, yeah. Won't be scared of that.
No, and rightly so. And I think it does give us an advantage playing at home, as most teams find. The record last year in the league away from amongst the group, the 12 teams in the league, apart from 3, I think there wasn't too many had glaring successes. So
Rugby Park kept them up last season, didn't it? I mean, it was a huge benefit to them.
100%, as it was for a lot of teams. So that was the one thing I wanted after the game. I was sitting with my son, and just a home tie. Get us a home tie. Gives you a chance. Gives you a better chance. Your favourites, you're playing at comfort. You've got your home fans behind you. And lo and behold, we've got a home tie. So sometimes you need the favour of the draw. We had it in '97 to win the cup. And that's what this group will be looking at. They've got another home tie, a great opportunity. and nothing to fear because we went to Tynecastle and didn't fear them. So why would you fear them coming to Rugby Park?
Something Derek McInnes said in the aftermath of the game struck me, in that he said that he felt that his team looked a bit more together as a squad than Celtic did. I mean, if you're a Celtic fan and you're hearing that kind of thing, and okay, they'll take what an opposition manager says with a pinch of salt. But if you're hearing that, it's a little bit sobering, isn't it? When you think of the success they enjoyed last season, you think of the manager they have here, the caliber of manager they've got in there. That's got to be a little bit worrying, isn't it?
It's a hard one because, being honest, Liam, Celtic fans probably from about 25 years younger have only known success. They've only been built up in success and winning cups, so they probably think winning trebles is just the norm. It's the older fans who realise that you actually have to turn up and work. You have to turn up and put your performances in. You have to turn up to win the games. There's no divine right. I would say that Celtic looked a wee bit disjointed at times, a wee bit, like you said, Liam, undercooked.
You know what, Gary, sorry. Some Celtic pundits or, players, guys who played for Celtic, who know the club inside and out, just finally on this, they were talking after the game yesterday that this match at Rugby Park, losing the cup tie, was an example of the squad needing strengthened. When you consider Killie's turnover and Celtic's turnover, I mean, Kilmarnock are dwarfed in all kinds of monetary ways by Celtic. Can that really be argued in this case? You may be arguing in the Champions League, but not in a domestic cup tie, surely.
No, not at all. Not at all. You look at Celtic's team yesterday in their bench. Anyway, I would say, and take my tinted glasses off, I would take 99% of them in the Kilmarnock team. So let's not beat about the bush. They've got a good enough squad. As I said, you've got no divine right to win a game, Liam. You have to turn up, roll the sleeves up. They didn't match the battle. They didn't match the battle yesterday. That was the thing. I don't think they won 150-50. I don't think they got to 1 second ball without a Kilmarnock jersey being there and getting there. And that set the foundation for the game. And the longer the game went on, you could only see one winner. And that was testament to Derek, testament to the players, testament to the game plan. Whether Celtic are undercooked or not, you can't say about their squad about strengthening. They've strengthened. They've got players. They'll continue to strengthen. But they've got an abundance of talent on the pitch, an abundance of talent coming off the bench. Whether the manager got it right or not, only Brendan will know.
Gary Holt, Scottish Cup winning legend at Kilmarnock from that final against Falkirk in 1997. Thank you very much. And hello to Kenny Miller. Kenny, how are we?
Good morning. Yep, very well. Yep, thanks.
Yeah, good to have you with us, Kenny. It's the rematch, Rangers against PSV Eindhoven for a place in the Champions League groups. PSV have been happy to go on the record and describe this as a revenge meeting after Antonio Cholak's goal in the Netherlands took Rangers through to the groups last season. Full coverage of the game on Sports Sound on BBC Radio Scotland. Kickoff is 8 p.m. on Tuesday. Kenny, you looking forward to this one?
It's going to be a big ask for Rangers when you see the way that PSV have approached it. But again, the Rangers players need no motivation or no more motivation in the fact that obviously there's a Champions League place beckoning, and also, like you say, that it's been put out there quite openly by PSV that this is revenge. It's time for revenge. So it's got the makings of a really, really good game. I mean, I think when you see the way Rangers are playing so far, and you see how PSV have hit the ground running this season, the PSV are probably slight favourites, I would say. But these games there's so much at stake that you just never know what is going to happen. And one thing, again, Rangers have not really let themselves down in these types of games over the last 5 seasons now. They've been pretty good over the course of these playoff games and qualifying campaigns for Europe. So it'll be a tight affair, I'm sure, but it's one that Rangers will need to be right at the top of their game.
Yeah, I mean, PSV haven't lost a competitive game since the middle of February, and that was in the Europa League knockout playoff round. They lost 3-0 in Spain against Sevilla. They actually beat the Spanish, who went on to lift the trophy, 2-0 in the home leg. It wasn't enough. They lost 3-0 in Andalusia. And they've been fabulous. A great start to the campaign. They swept Sturm Graz aside in the previous round. They came from behind to beat Vitesse Arnhem at the weekend, 3-1. So they're coming into this in some terrific form.
They are, and I mean, look again. I think they've scored in the 4 games that they've had. They've scored 12 goals. They're looking a real attacking threat. They've got good pace in the wide areas. They've got a couple of familiar faces for the game last year, and Veerman and Singari in the middle of the pitch as well. But they've got another young lad in the middle who looks full of energy. Obviously, got his goal. He got his goal.
He's only 18. I think that they're expecting big things of him. It's Isaac Babadi. He's just been promoted from the under-21 side, attacking midfield player.
Full of energy, full of energy, great legs, and obviously he's came into the team with no fear, as young players do, and really hit the ground running. So there is some real attacking talent. Obviously, their focal point of their team is a top striker. He's been about, he knows the game.
Luke de Jong, yeah.
But what he's got is he's got some real legs round about him as well, and good support. And that's it. So going forward, I think they are formidable. I'm not too sure about them at the back, to be honest. I think I watched the first leg of the Sturm Graz game, and as much as it was really impressive how they did sweep them aside, I still think there's risks that get taken there. I still think the centre backs could be potentially got at, and I think I've seen the same in most of the games that I've watched of them. So the Rangers need to be right at the top of their game, which means there's going to have to be improvement from their first few domestic appearances, and even I think the Servette game.
Well, let's hear a little bit from Michael Beale, the Rangers manager, who has been addressing the media on the eve of this huge occasion.
Well, little things are starting to happen. The new players have all now started a game, and I think Jack in goal has had his big moments last week in Servette, which you need as a Rangers goalkeeper. The forwards have started scoring, so Cyril's got 2 goals and assists in 4 starts. Danilo's got 2 goals in 3 starts, so I'm looking at positives in terms of certainly after the first weekend of the season, we've shown a positive face in terms of getting results. We made a lot of changes at the weekend, and we won and have gone through, and we've got a nice home draw, so everything's fine with that. The focus right now is just on tomorrow night, and I think it's a squad game, and I think we're going to need 14, 15 players in both games to step up for sure.
PSV have spent big this summer. They've brought Ricardo Pepi in as a USA international from Augsburg in Germany. Yerdy Schouten's come in from Bologna. He was a teammate of Lewis Ferguson's last season, played in the midfield with him, and they broke their record transfer fee to bring in Noah Lang from Bruges. He's a doubt for this one. He missed out at the weekend. Another really promising player, albeit 23, 24 now. And Malik Tillman, Kenny, came in from Bayern Munich on loan. A €1 million loan fee. You just wouldn't be surprised, would you, given Tillman, who started both legs against PSV last year, if he was to come in and make an impact?
It's the things that football throws up. Like these kind of side stories that you've got Rangers who, by all accounts, want to sign Tillman and they're willing to pay the fee. And
you were a star of many a sideshow back in the day, of course, with your transfers.
Well, that's it. I know, but again, like football's amazing. It does throw up these stories. So I wouldn't be surprising if Malik Tillman has a hand in this tie at some point. I mean, he's a really good young player. I was still one of the guys that was on the fence in terms of whether to actually sign him and spend the money, because I see incredible quality and real potential. But he's a wonderful player. There's no doubt he'll have a hand in the game at the tie at some point. But that's when you touch on Lang, right? That'll be a big loss to them, because he's looked really good. He's
started on fire, yeah.
He's one of these players that, again, like Bakayoko off the other side, they're getting real support of De Jong, and I think the way they play and the way the team's set up, it really suits De Jong as well, because he needs that type of legs about him, and it's the same like you say with Babadi. Like the legs that they've got to support De Jong is really good from a wider area and from central as well. So it'll be a big loss if he's not playing. So, but I say there's so much talent. Like if it's one player's out, then the next guy's come in and of equal quality. And like you say, they have invested pretty well in their team as well. So, and the guys you mentioned weren't really even in the team, some of them. So it's going to be a big task. Malik Tillman, like you say, is a side issue. I don't think he'll start the game unless the coach feels like, he's maybe got something to prove. It's one of these where you're going to play against a team that you've represented. There's that added incentive that you want to go and do well. But I would imagine I'm maybe making an impact off the bench, if anything.
And as we record this, PSV have signed Serginho Dest, US international, who has been brought in on loan from Barcelona. Primarily a right back. He can play at left back as well over on the other side. It's another top international player. As far as Rangers are concerned, Kenny, I was at the game on Saturday, the League Cup win over Morton. They squeaked through in the end. They came from behind to get through eventually. Goals from Dessers and Danilo got them through. He made 8 changes, Michael Beale, to the side from the one that was in Switzerland in the last round of Champions League qualifying. What kind of shape do you think they come into this tie-in?
They got through the tie, and to be honest with you, like you say, 2-1, it's a tight scoreline. But if you look over the course of the weekend's games, Aberdeen squeezed past 2-1, Hibs squeezed past 2-1, Celtic fall 1-0 to Kilmarnock, who've had a wonderful start to the season. But truth be told, like the game was really, really one-sided. I mean, Dougie Emery deserves a lot of credit for the way he set his team up and how they hung in. But again, I think Michael will feel his team were pretty wasteful with the opportunities they had. I mean, I felt there could have been a couple up. I mean, if you think of Matondo, the chances that he had, it was a real threat, actually, Matondo, but it was just that final moment that was letting him down within the game. So it probably should have been more comfortable than what it looked when you were hanging on at 2-1 at the end. I mean, I would say hanging on, but it just gets that feel, because it's the way Rangers kind of started the season. Servette kind of hanging on at home, and they were down to 10 men as well. But I don't think they're coming in great form in terms of the performances, but they're coming in off the back of getting past Servette, which again was the job that needed to be done. And then since that opening day defeat, obviously they've had a strong 4-0 win against Livingston, and then obviously getting through in the Cup. And I think the positive thing about it is there was some good play within it, within the game. But Dessers and Danilo getting more goals, get another goal each. I think that can only help them. I thought Dessers looked a little bit better, to be honest with you, in the game. He was involved in the game a lot more, I felt. His reactions were pretty good when things were going wrong or going against him, if there was maybe a sloppy touch. And he got his goal. I know it's a penalty, but it doesn't matter. For a striker to get a goal and get back on the score sheet, it's always going to be helpful for his confidence. And Danilo, likewise, coming on and getting a really, really good goal. So, and again, Dessers had a hand in that. He had a hand in that goal as well. So I think that would be where I would be looking for the positives for a Rangers perspective, is that getting these guys, getting these signings like with a bit of belief and a bit of confidence under their belt going into these games. And not just this game, hopefully you can get through this game, but obviously, as you know, like you've got league games that are important, and there's a huge Old Firm game in a couple of weeks as well. So it's getting these guys right up to speed at the top of their game and believing and trying to turn that little negative switch that's probably been hanging over the team a little bit at the start of the season and make it into a positive. And goals and performances are going to help with that.
Just finally, before I ask you one more question, Kenny, PSV have very helpfully just announced, all happening while we record the Scottish Football Podcast today, they've just announced their squad, 22-man squad that's coming to Glasgow today for the match on Tuesday evening, and Serginho Dest is in it. So he has signed on time, on loan from Barcelona. And I can tell you that Malik Tillman is also in the squad that's travelling, and Noah Lang, who is an injury doubt, is also travelling to Glasgow for the game. What kind of results a good one for Rangers tomorrow night then, Kenny? How many, if they're going to go through in the tie, how big a win do they need?
Obviously, a win would be great. By the way, a convincing win would be even better. I think as long as they're still in the tie, Rangers can go away, and I think they've shown over the course of their European journey that in the last few years that they're more than capable of going away and putting in battling performances and like last year against a very good team, producing a win to get through. So I don't think it's of paramount importance that they get the victory, but I do think it's important that probably they don't get beat, because I think if you're having to come back from like being maybe 2-1 down, 1-0 down, 3-2 down, it would be a big ask going across there, and with the mood, not just the way they're playing, but even the mood surrounding the team and everything at the moment. You're talking about the signings there, like they're really exciting times, obviously, for PSV this season. Looking forward to a big year. I think if they don't get beat, if they can win, great, but I don't think it's needed that they get that one, because I think they can go across there and grind it out.
Well, we shall see how Rangers fare. Kenny Miller, thank you very much for joining us. That rematch, Rangers against PSV Eindhoven, for a place in the Champions League group stage. The first leg at Ibrox. Kickoff is 8 p.m. It's live on Sports Sound on BBC Radio Scotland. We'll have a little look later in the week about Aberdeen, Hearts and Hibs, who are all in European action later on Wednesday. Hibs taking on Aston Villa. Aberdeen are in Sweden to play Häcken. And Hearts take on PAOK at home on Thursday evening. So plenty time across the week to look ahead to those. First up, though, Rangers PSV live on Sports Sound. We'll catch you then.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.